so you were supposed to put your book out through Simon and Schuster, right?
Well, so I did the book. So
you wrote it and turned it in, and that's what I'm interested in. What were the notes like from that?
Okay, so well, it was actually 2 books. So in 2016, you ever read Hope They Serve Beer in Hell?
Oh, the Tucker Max book. Yeah, I did.
So I read that in college, and I thought it was fucking hilarious. And I was like, okay, like I want this guy to write my book, and I had him do my book. Like not Tucker Max, but the guy that wrote Tucker, Ghost Road or whatever, helped him. This guy Nils, I think it was. And anyways, he, it was a funny book. It was good. It was just not my voice, and like, and my stories were like the opposite of Tucker Max. Mine were like super fucking crazy, really over the top, like factually. But because of that, like I couldn't tell it in a braggy tone. Because it's kind of like if you take somebody to your fucking garage and you got like, 12 fucking Rolls Royces and you're like bragging about your fucking Rolls Royces all day, and then they see them, it's like, it's not as like cool as if they just like stumble in there. It's like sometimes like when something's like super fucking over the top or super badass, like subtlety is better, like not like overselling it. Whereas his stories were like pretty normal bar stories, like, went out to the bar, buddy got drunk, he fucked the fat chick, like, you know what I mean? It's not like anything like on the merit of the story, but the way he told it was funny.
I remember there was one story, because I used to read his blog in like 2003 before I even had a book, I think. And one of the stories is like he's fucking a chick in the ass. She blasts shit all over him, and his friend is hiding in the closet watching. And his friend busts out of the closet puking everywhere. And the girl obviously didn't know this guy's in the closet. And when I think about that story through my like 2022, I don't want a BuzzFeed article written about me lens, I'm like, wow, that story really reads different these days. Even though like if that happened to one of my friends, it would just be, yeah, of course.
Yeah. No. Well, that was an example of a more over the top story of his, which, was fucking great. I remember that.
Right. But it's self-deprecating.
Yeah, it's self-deprecating, and it's, and he told it in a really funny way. It just, like I said, for mine, I didn't feel like it worked, because I felt like I had shown everybody what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was like, I had done it for a long, long time, and pictures worth 1,000 words kind of thing, and I'd done the videos, and it's like I'd been doing it for a while, that I felt like I don't know, I just didn't feel, I'm not, I don't know, my Instagram is probably not a great representation, but I'm not generally like that braggy of a guy. I mean, I chose to fucking, set up an Instagram where it was like, bucket list thing of just bragging, right? So it's a little counterintuitive, but in general, I don't know. I don't think like beating your chest and bragging is as cool as just kind of like telling the fucking story how it was. Like the story, I felt like the story on its merits and alone was, interesting enough. And I felt like it was more believable and just a fucking normal tone. So I like the guy's writing style. It just didn't fit my story. So anyways, he wrote this whole book, and I just, I trashed it. So you
didn't even show that to the publisher? You just said, fuck this?
I saw it. I think people liked it. Like, it would have done well, probably like my audience probably would have liked it. I just didn't want it to be my legacy, and so I just gave them their money back, and then kind of like just kind of, put the project on ice, didn't really think about it, just went back to doing my thing. And it wasn't until 2020 or whatever, maybe the end of 19, I think it was 2020. Like I was in quarantine and Goggins was training with me, and I ended up reading his book, and fucking guy told me he made like 30 million on the thing, or like some crazy number.
Wow.
And I read his book, and it was a lot of like similar stuff to mine, like the SEAL training and all that. And I just felt like, my story, was similar. And then I had some other stuff that I felt like pretty dynamic and appealing to guys. And I kind of always wanted to tell the story. So I was like, well, fuck it. I got nothing else to do. I'll just write this goddamn thing myself. And so I bit off a lot more than I could fucking chew, but I finished.
But how soon after that did you do the tweet where you asked for potential book titles? Because I think maybe you didn't even realize how many detractors you had out there who were just patiently waiting to dunk on you until then.
No, there's a lot. I mean, there's never been any shortages of those, man. Yeah, I was always like a pretty divisive, controversial character, I would say. Just because I was just really like unapologetic about stuff, and I don't know, the things that I was doing, I guess like wasn't really that socially acceptable. Not to mention like when I would do the captions, it was kind of like a lot of times it was a fuck you added on top of it. And so, yeah, I've had haters for a while. I think maybe more so recently, but they've always been there, you know?
But you think the world has just kind of changed around you? Because like in the early days of social media, I don't really remember there being much blowback about you posting the kind of stuff you were posting, because social media was so new that in like 2013 or whatever, when we first started to really see your Instagram posts, people didn't really, like, this wasn't really considered offensive to just be hanging out with a bunch of hot chicks, and then time goes by and all of a sudden this just is viewed as like offensive.
Well, I think the quarantine was like a major shift. Like, I think it was like a fucking, like, a pivot. Like, it wasn't like a slow, it was like an about face. It was like, man, everything got turned on its head, you know? And so
much anger built up, and they were just looking for a target for it to go to.
yeah, I've never seen as much hostility and canceling and this and that. It's like, you know, but that's what happens, man. You lock a bunch of people in their fucking houses, take away their fucking freedoms, you know, don't let them work out, don't let them get in the sun, fucking, you know, don't have them go to work. They're not doing shit. I mean, that's really like the problem with society today in general, is that people aren't like doing enough. So like, and that causes anxiety. Like, so you have this phone, which has got all this stimulus, you've got TVs, you've got all this shit that's massive mental stimulus, but no physical stimulus, right? So your mind is being stimulated at this massive rate, but you're not doing anything physically. So then when you put that phone down, when you stop, you know, watching fucking TV or whatever, you have this need for this much stimulus, but it's gone, right? And you haven't burned off, like, you work out, so like, you know, you go for a fucking, you know, 6 mile run, or you go fucking work out an hour in the gym, or whatever it is that you do. After that, you're fucking way more relaxed, right? Like, you know, when I do a sauna and then I do an ice bath and a sauna, I'm fucking, dude, I'm calm as a cucumber, right? So I think that people just, you know, especially, you know, during quarantine, they just didn't do anything. So like, they've got all this energy because the human body is made to, like, you know, be walking all day or doing shit, not just like sitting in a fucking house. So when you don't do anything and then you're like overstimulating your mind, I think it's just like a recipe for anxiety, for fucking, you know, anger, for all these things, because it needs some kind of an outlet, you know, and it's not getting it physically. So
They always say on Twitter that the goal is to not become the villain of the day. And I remember during quarantine is when I first started to feel like, if I can not get canceled or not have a huge group of people pile on me today or this week, that's a big W, because I'm seeing it happen to fucking everybody else around me, especially people who are white, in a position of privilege, who have money. It was a very treacherous time.
yeah,
On Twitter specifically.
it is a wild time. It's like, it's they've almost made it like a crime to be white now. It's like the strangest fucking thing. And it happens so fast too. I don't know if it was like kind of a ploy to like this coup of Trump or whatever the fuck it was, but man, it just like, I felt like 2019 was like the least racist fucking period in like my lifetime anyways that I ever saw. Like when I was growing up in high school, there was some racism. Like it's honestly like probably more from the blacks than the whites. I mean, there was like a cracker day where black kids would beat up fucking white kids. I got shot at for being fucking white in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like when I was like trying to buy drugs, you know, like, and but you know, so but it was you know, it was both sides. I mean, like, you know, it would go back and forth. Then I joined the military, and it was like, you know, people would like talk shit and whatever, but it was like never anything serious, you know. And it wasn't like any like real division. Like everybody's like on the same fucking team, but would talk shit just like guys talk shit, you know. And then I feel like it by like fuck man, like 2015, 2010, it was like pretty much like totally gone. But 2019, it was like I didn't even like consider race at all. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, and then flash forward 2 years, it's like you can't see a fucking article without like the fucking headline focusing on race. Like everything is like race driven. It's like, it's just really weird to me.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of gone past the point of like an important racial reckoning to like, let's just make everything viewed through this lens. I was watching this Abercrombie documentary on Netflix, and I mean, it was just shocking to me, like how they managed to frame everything about Abercrombie in the sense of like, this was a evil white corporation and they were saved because now they have these multicultural ads, which that's nice and everything, but it also like, it doesn't look like an Abercrombie ad anymore. It looks like every other fucking store in the mall, you know?
I think it's two things, man. I think it's like this need for acceptance. Like people want to be on like the right side, and everybody's like so scared of this, so scared of that. So like, you know, this like safe narrative comes out, which is like, oh, you know, like I'm sorry for being white. Like let's help these people that've been oppressed, whatever. Like, and so that, like, who can argue with that, right? Like, that's the safe thing to say. So everybody like wants to be safe, so they jump on that. And you know, I don't know. I think it's just fucking nonsense, to be honest with you. But I watched it all happen, and it was very surprising. Like, and then it got to the point where, like, it was just this battle. Like, everybody was like so mad about this, so mad about that, and then like overcompensating. Like, you know, Coca-Cola's like teaching people to be less white. It's just like weird. It's like weird shit. And it's like, you know, the goal is just to like have race not come into the equation. It's like, that shouldn't be like, you shouldn't hire anybody based on race. You shouldn't not hire anybody based on race. You shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like the goal of like equality and not having racism is just that it's not a consideration, right? Like when you go to fucking, you know, like hire somebody, date somebody, be friends with somebody, whatever, like if you're considering their race, that by definition is racist, right? Like
we should want to live in a world where your race is just as important as your hair color.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe. We just hit 200K. We're trying to get to 300K.
Turn us up.
Appreciate y'all.
Let's go.